Hi everyone. Just to have a gauge of audience, so show a hand if you are from the academia. Wow, majority. How many from the industry? Quite a few. And from the industry, are you researcher? One, two. So we have two researchers from industry. And for the one from the tertiary education, are you researchers? Yeah, some of you researchers. Probably some of you are more expert in AI than me. Because I'm not a computer scientist. As you can see here, a wet lab scientist. I'm a plant molecular biologist by training. Okay, so today I'm going to share with you my take on how ChatGPT, or in general, generative AI or large language models, going to change the way we do science. Okay, so imagine a future where researchers can automate literature review, generate hypotheses effortlessly, analyze vast data set rapidly, and collaborate seamlessly across discipline. And this future is now. Yeah, it's not a future, but what is happening now. And it's very fast. So I will put generative AI in context. In this case, in the context of AI. So AI basically learn, analyze, and predict. So that's what AI in general, a whole field of it. Then you have a discipline on machine learning, where data go through algorithm and generate a prediction based on the different algorithm. And you have further, more in-depth deep learning. They have neural networks to learn and do prediction. And this generative AI is a subdiscipline within the deep learning that use neural network create new content in context. So don't worry if I go through slide very fast, because I have many slides, and Graham was joking about this morning that whether I can go through it in 20 minutes. Don't worry, you get the access to the slide later. So basically, AI create content from large amount of training data, and in various kind of modality. And you can have music, picture, videos, all sort. However, what we are familiar with ChatGPT is not. Some people are confused between the LLM and then the diffusion. They are actually different things within the generative AI, and not all large language model are actually generative AI. And the one that we're familiar with, the ChatGPT, as of now, mostly based on conversational context, so text input, right? So even the diffusion, the one that generates image, also you put in the text, what you want it to generate, and you come up with the image or the video. And all these fall under generative AI. And if you can see from the figure here, the training data for the generative AI is not just the human-generated content nowadays. There are also synthetic data that's self-generated from generative AI that feed back into the training model. So this is something I think for the researcher in the field and for the layman out there should bear in mind, that we are generating synthetic data that train the data further, and this might create further bias. Okay. So, and what are LLM? So I go in deeper. LLM, to put in the context of the ChatGPT. Okay, so this is what's happening when you put in a prompt into the ChatGPT. Tokenization happen, that it tries to understand it, and then it have all these conversations always in the background, that you are having this conversation in context, like you are chatting with a person. The person heard it before. Unlike Google search, probably the beginning of Google search doesn't like track your cookies and something like that, the browsing history. But nowadays also, I think Google search also in context of what you searched before and come up with a result more relevant to you. So ChatGPT is even more personal, because you remember what you told it, and it gives you an answer personalized to your conversation with it through the prompt. Okay, so essentially what you want to understand, ChatGPT in this context is a very smart AI that read all the books in the world, everything in the world, that you are talking to the bot, and it's telling you all the answer. And that's what all the students rely on. They expect the ChatGPT to know everything and tell them all the answer to all their assessment. But there are biases, as we heard this morning. Okay, so we see this like November 30th. It's actually the iPhone moment. When iPhone come out, it's revolutionary, right? It's a smartphone that combine all the devices, the phone that can take picture, video, everything combined in one device. And probably in the near future, next year, there will be an AI phone. They have generative AI. I'm expecting that. That's why I don't upgrade my phone yet. Okay, so, but I become super intelligent chatbot. Even the ChatGPT, when it come out, it forced the bot to come out. Actually, Google still waiting for the right moment, but too bad it's forced by OpenAI to launch it. And as you can see from this lineage of the history of GPT, Google brain is the one that invented transformer in the first place. They are all built on the same tree. So BERT is under Google. It's already since 2017. Then GPT-3 come out with the ChatGPT under OpenAI. So since 2015. So this is like the timeline on how it happened. But the official launch that make it so disruptive because it's big public. Everyone can use it now. It's a general purpose tool. Just like someone created fire in the ancient time, then people use fire to cooking and do all sorts of things. And when smartphone, iPhone come out, everyone's jump on the bandwagon and use it. So ChatGPT and generative AI in general will be part and parcel of life, as we'll see later in my slide. So another thing I want to mention also, apart from ChatGPT, something else that come out that's breakthrough in science around that time of COVID is the AlphaFold. So this is also machine learning. So super intelligence software that can predict structure from just the sequences. Okay, so that's still actively developed. And these two tools actually revolutionize research as we know it. And this, I think, most Malaysians cannot access. It's a more advanced tools that allow longer input. So the tokenization that I mentioned before, actually that's what limit to your subscription. If you pay more, you can like input more and give it longer things to remember. And cloud actually surpassed the tool on the tokenizations. I think it's the longest. And because of that, of what AI have in strength in writing, so they come out with a lot of tools that help in writing, in productivity, in coding, and it basically have AI tool for everyday life. Okay, so that's why you cannot stop the student from using it at all. Okay, there is no turning back when the disruptive moment has happened. Okay, and how smart is ChatGPT? It's basically smarter than average of us. So you can say the generative AI is smarter than average human now. Okay, that's when the humanity crisis, existential crisis, whether it will happen or not, become sudden issue since like when the launch of ChatGPT. Whether ChatGPT going to replace all the human workers. So that's why all of you are here to listen. Okay, so basically, but surprisingly, you can see that in the English literature, English language, where we expect it to perform like wow, right? But then it's still lag behind most of the human creativity. If you see the percentile, the higher the percentile mean is like more superior. So in the verbal, actually it's 99% percentile in the exam result than the human candidate as compared to English literature. This is what surprised me anyway. So put into context, just in general, benefit of generative AI is basically can increase your creativity, productivity, and enhance collaboration and provide you new insight and faster discovery. And basically in stock market research, for those that invest in stock, probably you have explored some AI tools to help you to decide on what stock to buy, and probably we'll hear some this later after lunch. And this, I think, Prof. Ho mentioned just now, show the co-pilot. You can ask the GPT to help you to interpret, and it revolutionized law, actually, all the legal document. You don't go through all of them, you just put into the software and then ask it anything, it will answer to you. So as the Forrester report predictions, AI will become indispensable. Okay, it will be the most trusted enterprise co-worker. And there are various tools in research. We come back to research. So there even something called all-in-one AI assistant, and we call it Auto GPT or Agent GPT nowadays. So it's going beyond ChatGPT. This Agent GPT can do everything for you, even write email. Like now you have the human prompt it, right? So let's say you are planning a birthday party for your kids. You have to step-by-step prompt it how to design what, and then you have to input it, human interaction. However, if using the AutoGPT, it can design everything for you and even send out email for you. You don't need to do it yourself, okay? So it's combined with Python programming. It can automate tasks and do it for you. You don't need human intervention anymore. Not to scare you, you still have your job. So that is what's happening in research. And it developed very fast. So what GPT can help with I think the most apparent use for now for all of us is the manual data analysis, the limited. All these are the kind of like the pain point that we are struggling with all the literature. Everyone's writing paper every day. Don't know how many thousand paper come out. How to catch up with the literature. So basically, how with the extraction of all the key information from the article and significantly speed up literature review. So this is what we can do. So it actually helps us augment our human intelligence and expertise if we use it right. So it offers unprecedented opportunity in data collection, in analysis, and in writing. So all these general things already mentioned by Prof. Ho, and it's overlap between research and also in education or the student assessment. This is a recent survey come out in Nature on the 10th of October. You can see most of the research are using it to edit, especially for those of us that English is not our first language. It's very helpful to help us to polish our writing. Also to make coding easier, faster for the programmer, and summarize the other research to save time to reading it. So all these are general research use from the researcher. So how generative AI can revolutionize research in the field? So this one will touch on by Graham later, so I'm not going to dwell on it further. Okay, but importantly, the synthetic data that I mentioned actually aid researchers in conducting experiments and to explore novel scenarios without costly real-world implementation, like clinical data. Probably you will question whether it's still valid, this synthetic, but it is being used now to train all these and evaluate the AI algorithm for synthetic medical images for diagnosis. Okay, so it bridged the knowledge gap between researchers in different disciplines and from different countries. For example, what you can see here is actually the an imaging, MRI imaging to measure from the lung, and so it can be used as a companion for diagnosis in reality, so application. And generative AI is transformative because of this context. So it's very good in natural language processing because you understand what you told, and in different languages, so it's not limited to the language barrier at all. And it's super good in machine translations and image generations, and also what I want to touch on is the drug discovery. So we can have a look on this. One example in terms of the large language model is the more specialized kind of GPT called BioGPT. It uses all the published literature, and it reads all the biomedical publication, and it can perform better than your average, even perform better than professor in this case, but by knowing all the literature. So this is the timeline of how we have evolved, because there is no end to ChatGPT or generative AI from keep learning and keep learning every second, so surpassing human capacity. And BioGPT have comparable performance in biomedical research tests than human annotator. You can see it's surpassing human already in the capacity. And we have another thing called GeneGPT, and it's similar, and it can answer genomic questions about gene function, gene location, where's the loci inside our human genome, with precision. And for application, this is something that I screenshot from AI for Good this year. Dr. Wagner Vogel from Amazon. So it's actually demonstrating how AI being applied in the unmanned vehicle for machine learning in precision agriculture. And nowadays, if we integrate it with, it's not like you have to do the programming for anything. You can just tell through the prompt that I want this plot to apply how much at what time, and it's going to automate it just through this kind of natural language input, rather than you have to go and specify all the parameters. So that's how it's going to happen to precision agriculture. And because of the machine visions, it can actually help with all these precision farmings. And in this case, Aquabite use computer vision for healthy fish and sustainable aquaculture by monitoring any early symptom of the fish to avoid it spreading through the population. Okay? And in drug discovery, it helps with the new therapeutic targets. So this is a publication that shows about the diffusion models. So the attention-based diffusion model help with the molecule. So it can, when it first come out, also there's this concern. Anyone can ask GPT to create the simplest drug or simplest poison that can kill the most people, and it can actually come up with that initially before they impose all these inbuilt system into the GPT not to tell these kind of things. Actually, from the beginning, I have 5 minutes left, so I will speed this up. Okay, so these are the different models used in the generative AI for this kind of compound discovery, and it can be customized for all the company. Okay, all the big pharmaceutical company are competing with each other to try to get the novel drug first. And now ChatGPT can see and hear and speak with the GPT 4.0. You give it a graph, it can describe to you what the graph is about. You give an image, it can diagnose for you. So what's the purpose of the doctor out there now? Even doctor rely on this now, right? And you can give your email and let it diagnose for you. Okay? So it can step by step teach you how to do and solve things at your home. And you can create code for the image, just drawing a draft and everything. So you can ask it to teach your kids about the cell. So we can do a lot of things. The potential is endless. So we have this predictive and generative AI, and what we want to predict our health, right? When we're going to die, how long we're going to live. Okay, probably AI can tell us about it. So, and it have big implication in insurance. Okay, we can see this impact in the insurance in the future. And in Malaysia, more relevant, the Malaya LLM. Imagine we have all the corpora or all the Malay language literature and use it in our government agency. So this is actually there's a company in Malaysia called Litika actually working on this, incorporating the Malay language literature for the LLM. So basically, I'll skip through all this because we're going to have a panel session on this. Basically, I asked ChatGPT about me, and it hallucinate and create a story about me. Okay, so, and this I want to mention. Even though we have a lot of ethical guideline in place, right? So every company, the big company, will have this type to tell the society that their company only going to do good with the generative AI. However, like for example, NVIDIA, the biggest player, they have these guardrails to stop generative AI and going rogue. However, out there's a dark web. We have this worm GPT. They create the malicious software, like what Pro Ho mentioned. So there's no stopping of this, just like the dark web. So how to regulate this? So I've written something about this as to add another SDG, like 17 not enough, to have the AI trustworthy AI. Okay, so in conclusion, you're going to change all aspects of research, and you just have to embrace it. There is no running away from it. That's all from me. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Goh. Are there any questions for Dr. Goh before he leaves? Put up your hand.
Thank you. Very entertaining speaker. Okay, I'd like to ask you a hypothetical question. When the car was invented, everyone started saying this is the wave of the change is happening. Everyone started owning cars. Now we have global warming. We have pollution. Now we're going back to using electric bicycles or even walking, because associated problems with the car is that we are unhealthy. We've become a very unhealthy, human beings are now becoming overweight, not enough exercise. So what do you predict? When will we arrive at a moment where AI will start being abandoned left and right? I just gave you a trajectory of problems associated with industrialization. So it's a hypothetical question. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Sharifah, for the hypothetical questions. We are not abandoning car, right? It's just changing into an electric car. Okay? So technology move on, and we adopt with the technology, and we also adapt and change our lifestyle. So the question about whether AI will be abandoned, I don't see that happening at all. But I will see the society acceptance of it. Probably for now, from the beginning, there will be a lot of reluctance because they're going to see it as very disruptive. They're going to like displace them from their role and change everything that they do, how they do it. But sooner or later, it becomes a norm of life. Just like COVID-19, during that time, Zoom become a norm of life. Webinar become a norm now, right? So generative AI going to be a norm soon. However, I think early this year, there's a big player in the field that asked for it to stop for a while until they realize how to control it. When they can come up with a guideline to how to use it responsibly. I think all the big players in the field realize about the implication. That's why Google are reluctant to release Bard from the beginning until OpenAI released ChatGPT. So I think it's very interesting to look at this story. However, inevitably, we need to move on with it and learn how to adapt to it. So my simple answer is I don't see abandoned. It is the now thing, and we have to live with it. Any other questions?
Thank you very much for your talk, Bradley University. A couple of thoughts I had when you were giving your presentation are this Copilot. I remember getting Microsoft Word and this little annoying paperclip would always keep popping up. The first thing I wanted to disable. So when I see Microsoft and anything intelligent, sorry, I'm immediately skeptical. There's a case that came out a few months ago, a pair of New York lawyers who were arguing a case versus an airline. Their client had been injured and they submitted the brief. And later it was discovered they didn't really do their due diligence. They let ChatGPT write it and it made up cases. So are we living in a dangerous period right now? And I see all the medical things you're putting up there. AI can be wonderful and when it gets things right, but it can be completely disastrous when it gets things wrong. And that's the speed of which this is happening. I'm wondering if you would comment on the period we're in and how it's used.
Okay. Thank you for the question and the concern on the issue. I think it's a very, very good point. That's why humans come in. And it's applicable to scientific publication as well. That's why ChatGPT cannot be an author. It's not ethically responsible for what is written. And it's also a disclaimer in ChatGPT that says that it's not 100% accurate, right? That's why we as a user should know the limitation and be critical about what's the output. The lawyer that take wholly the output from ChatGPT as a case is whose fault? It's not ChatGPT's fault. It's the lawyer's fault for not doing their job to check the facts, right? So we are living in an era that we need to educate everyone, the user especially, don't trust wholly on ChatGPT output. They need to be very critical. ChatGPT is just a tool to help them to learn, to help them to process information. Whether it's true or not, they need to validate it themselves. They have the responsibility on what they have written themselves, rather than blame it on ChatGPT, get the wrong output. Just like when Google come out, people just Google everything, right? So do you blame Google for getting it wrong? No, because you, the person that use it, and commit that mistake yourself. So I think that needs to be made clear to all the users. You're responsible with what you do with it. Same with all the malicious attempt that is capable of. I think we as a society need to be aware that the potential and also the danger of it ourselves. Yeah, I think there's a lot of, what I'm showing you are all the good potential, all the optimistic, we are all optimistic crowd, right? But there are also very dark side and the misuse of it that we have to be aware of.
Thank you, Dr. Goh. One more question before we move on.
Thank you very much for the interesting talk and the optimistic side. I try to go the other way around because nowadays a lot of people using it. Obviously, you have mentioned that it's the responsibility of the researcher to take full responsibility of what they wrote and what they published. Unfortunately, how many of the responsible researchers are doing at the moment at the speed of publishing 100 over papers or 300 over papers a year? Almost every day, one paper. You think they read all of them? Okay, that's question number one. Number two, okay, since this has been a part of the issues that we have created, that means there are a lot of potential for fake facts happening already in the literatures at the moment. Okay, AI will just continue creating deep facts. That's what there has been detected. The facts that is fake and become a facts that is going to be validated and continuously validated until might be another Albert Einstein come and prove it wrong. If not, it will be a fact. How do you think that you, especially like what you said just now, all the genomics and whatever, how do we actually clarify or validate? I think the validation is extremely important because it has been continuously layer by layer become a relative fact. And I just tell you this is good. I tell you 100 times, 1,000 times, you believe it's good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question. Two questions here. One is about researcher integrity. Even before the rise of ChatGPT, there are some researchers publish 1,000 paper, co-author 1,000 paper a year. Do you think they read all of the paper that they co-author? No, right? So it's all down to your researcher integrity. Your publication are all published in Google Scholar. You are judged publicly. So people know whether you really, that's peer, okay? Are you expert among your peer? Your peer know whether you write rubbish or you are actually groundbreaking, okay? So that's the first. Your peer will know, okay? In every field, the expert field, you will know your peer whether they are actually really have the substance or not. Am I right? You know your peers, right? And also the second question about the facts. Now a lot of hallucination, fake facts, going to feed back into a synthetic data and to train some more, right? So I think just like there's a tool to validate fake news, in the future there should be a type of way to probably to validate facts automatically and with human intervention as well. I'm not aware of it for now, but I can see what your concern is. There might be a lot of fake or unreliable output from generative AI. However, as the technology progresses, there will be a tool to enhance it and to probably improve it against all these limitations. That I'm not expert in the field. I'm not also working in the ChatGPT, so I cannot answer you about that. But I can foresee that happening because it will let these limitations be stopping the ChatGPT from getting better.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please a round of applause for Dr. Goh.